a weekly breakfast of insights, tips and tricks, and general information that will help anyone trying to move things forward in this digital world of accounting. This week, I'm joined by the amazing and what I can only say is everyone knows him, Aaron Patrick, the QuickBooks chap, the expert on all things Intuit. And the reason we've got him on this show is we are diving into one of the main articles from the that we picked up in our newsletter over the last few weeks, which was Intuit's announcement about their new solution for making tax digital. But the announcement was a little vague, and I want to try and understand what is going on with this. Is it something that's going to be quite revolutionary, as it's hinted to inside the article, or is it just a lot of marketing fluff around something that already exists? So look, let's start straight there, Aaron. Is this just one of those articles that goes everywhere but doesn't really say anything?
Great question. And first of all, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming along for this breakfast digest, as you called it. And also, happy Nintendo Switch 2 Day as well. I think that's an important part of the diary for today. Yeah, no, you're right. Is it fluff? Is it? It's account text, right? We need to. They need to have reasons for people to come to their stand. They need to have opportunities to be there. What I can say is there is definitely a big push for a whole new product that is on its way. I've got opportunity to see it only a couple of days ago, right? And there is a definite push for a new platform, a new product that I think is going to be really exciting. This particular talk here, I believe, is what is related to some of the other products that they've got, and they're just trying to get that excitement back again. It's safe to say that, and we definitely talk about it. It's QuickBooks Sole Trader is the one that I think is the most relevant to this discussion. And I feel like its launch wasn't perfectly executed. I feel like that's what they're trying to do now, is almost backtrack a little bit, try and get that excitement back up again. And it's always difficult, right? When you come to events like Accountex and stuff, you want to be able to go forward with the latest and greatest, the newest stuff there, don't you? You want to be able to say, literally, I've just acquired X, or I'm releasing Y, and that's how normally from Accountex you get all the buzz and all the eyes on you. I think in this case, it was a case of they're kind of stuck in between. They've got this amazing product that's coming later this year. They've released a couple of products end of last year, so they're kind of in the middle. And I think that's why it was a little bit confusing for the likes of, for me and you and everything when we're reading that extract. But yeah, there's AI is their big push at the moment. Intuit Assist is going to be their opportunity to try and win the hearts and souls as accountants, as they say in the PR side of things. So yeah, they've got stuff brewing. I think it's just a little bit confusing exactly what that is at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, they were. It's like they were trying to say stuff without being able to say anything. That's kind of how the article came across. And I know you say like Intuit Assist is going to be there, but they've been saying that for quite a long time, to be fair. And I think we've always over in the UK felt a little bit envious of the US market with Intuit Assist, because it feels like it's having more traction over there. And they always had the biggest potential out of all of the AI tools that are plugged into these systems, because of the way Intuit plan to build this across their various tools, not just QuickBooks Online, but Mailchimp, etc. We felt actually this could have a real good positive impact. And now with AI agents out there, I'm assuming that they're going to be focusing on that, especially that I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think they got rid of like 800 staff in the US and replaced them with 800 AI focused staff like a year or two ago. So you know that they're all in on anything AI related. But in the article, first they said currently we already have an MTD income tax solution with QuickBooks, and I assume that's the sole trader one that you're referring to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really important to understand where or what the history behind this was. So before QuickBooks Sole Trader came about, there was a product called QuickBooks Self-Employed, and then there's a QuickBooks Online. And for most accountants, we know QuickBooks Online. You've got Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, Advanced, all those SKUs that we know and love. Or most of us know and love it. Obviously, there's going to be people who don't quite love it as much. But the way that Self-Employed was always kind of put out, it was its own little product. And it was amazing for clients. Clients loved it. It was simplistic. It was straightforward. It was, not accounting terms. And the problem was, from an accountant's point of view, it wasn't even double entry, and it wasn't a nice upgrade path back to QuickBooks Online. And it was loathed by the accounting community, but loved by the clients. And then you've got QuickBooks Online, where majority of accountants love the ability to customize it, love the ability to go into it, love the ability to use all these fancy tools to clean it all up and everything else. But as soon as you put a client on it, especially someone on an MTD type client, when they're the lower end, they were intimidated by it, right? And it was really confusing to them, and it was difficult for them to buy into this software. And if anything, it was just putting them off digitalizing because it was way too complicated. So the idea of QuickBooks Sole Trader, and I feel, as a fanboy of QuickBooks, really lucky that we were able to get this, is the ability to merge the two together. So you get the simplicity of self-employed, you get the complications that we love as accountants, and just try and find that sweet spot. And then they future-proof it with the AI element that's come through. And what you've got is this really interesting product where, yeah, it's really, really super simple. Literally, it is a case from a client's point of view. They just need to attach their bank account, which sounds scary. And I know there's a lot of people there going, well, that can't be all it is. But using AI, using auto categorization, using machine learning, using all of those terms, it basically takes that banking and it will just auto categorize every transaction there from start to finish. And I think from a accountant's point of view, that's really scary. And I think some clients actually find that really scary as well. And we've just got to kind of figure out how we then do what we do best, analyze that data, make sure it's okay, do our checks and everything else. But in theory, if everything's working well, then this is the best MTD product on the planet, because literally you attach the bank, you do 5 minutes worth of check-in, you submit those MTD reports that all the HMRC wants. Because if you kind of talk to HMRC at this point, it'll get more complicated later down the line. But the more point, as long as the bank's connected, as long as transactions are flowing through and you've done a sense check, it's all you need for MTD, right? So this is why, it's a really exciting product. I feel like accountants are scared of it though, because it almost too good to be true, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I get that. I think there's a lot of excitement and fear around AI, and we need to find the trust in it. But there's two big positives here. One is scalability. So if it's based around the core product, it means that you're going from absolutely micro now up to enterprise with what you can do with Intuit. Now, you don't normally go from a sole trader and instantly become a company. You just merging your data. It can happen for incorporation, etc., but it doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
But it does enable you to just grow on one suite, and that's what's really different. Is a differentiator for Intuit over the other products in the space, where you have to like now move between various products. You can't just kind of upgrade. And then I think there is a big win in utilizing AI in this way. And I think as long as it's got the ability to learn, and it kind of learns on its own like little bubble, its own little client or your suite of clients, so that if it's picked up an error or something that you don't want as an accountant to go to a certain place, you train it, you recategorize, and it learns that and applies all the similar transactions it's done that way to that, then actually that's exactly what we want. That's how the normal bank feeds that we see work. It prompts, and then we reanalyze, we re-advise it, and it updates it for everything that we need going forward. And I think that's a big win. I think that's a huge positive. And yes, there might be some nervousness about that, but essentially the system is still very new. I believe, and correct me, it was released this year, wasn't it, Sole Trader?
Uh, End of last year, but yeah, it's not.
End of last year.
Yeah, it's not been long out there. And you're right. And I think one of the positives that I've kind of got from playing around with it and utilizing it is definitely prioritizing. If us as the business advisor slash accountant slash bookkeeper, whatever our term needs to be, we make an adjustment, then it's seeing that as more of a, right, that's a priority adjustment going forward. That's what we should learn going forward, as opposed to maybe the client's a little bit unsure and kind of playing around with it a little bit and maybe making adjustments here and there, sort of thing. But if we come in and we say, no, 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 going forward, this needs to be this, seems to be making that as a priority going forward. And I think you're right. Like, the dream, isn't it, is it doesn't just learn on that client, but it learns on your whole client portfolio. That's what we want to do. And this whole idea of agents and everything that comes through, we want those agents to start getting that data from all our client portfolio and be able to kind of apply that, don't we? So that it's taking our what we pride ourselves on, our practice, right? And our practice is going to be different to a practice down the road or whatever it's going to be, right? And I feel like that's where there's an opportunity there to really grow. And I think that's where the confidence will come in as well. I think that's where digital adoption, or AI adoption in the accounting industry will be better, because if you can see that you're actually teaching it, and we can see those tangible teachings come through, and we can see an actual benefit out of it, that's when, hopefully, fingers crossed, the rest of the industry will start looking at it more favorably, and then start adopting it from there. Because yeah, it's that there's definitely a Marmite approach to this product at the moment. It's either this is the best thing I can think of, and this is going to be how we approach MTD going forward. And all in on it, or it's it sounds a bit too good to be true, and you did, and we've just got to find a way to manage that expectation, haven't we?
And I think that's actually quite common. I've been talking to a lot of software providers recently on their marketing angle is that it can do everything, right? And we've been burnt by that in the accountancy space for so long now, where it's the same way that I think everyone, or maybe not free agent here, but every one of the main small business finance solutions have gone in some way on their advertising and have said it will do it for you to the end user, kind of excluding the accountant. We're not needed anymore. And all the accountants have gone, hang on a second, you're causing a massive problem by doing this because actually they do need assistance. The tool still can't do it on its own. And we're still in that kind of distrust. We're trained to be skeptic, right? We're trained to not trust things and dig into it and find out what the solutions are. And we're going to do that with our tech as well. So it's going to take a little while to give us the confidence on the tools, and we have to use them. We have to kind of throw ourselves in to be able to do that. But it sounds like from the sole trader aspect, we've got some of this. Let's dive a little bit into Intuit Assist, because when it was first announced, this was kind of pre agents. This was pre tools, and just to I guess try and explain, and I'm nowhere near as good as some on in this space, but explain what an agent is. There's essentially a bot to some extent that you can train across all of your platforms. You give it its boundaries, tell it what it wants to do, but it uses its own learning to kind of find the solutions within those parameters. So not RPA, not a co-pilot, kind of a cross between the two. RPA very rigid, only does exactly what you say it to do. If anything, if it needs to divert slightly, the whole thing breaks. Copilot very kind of localized into a specific area. So we saying we from what this article is and the way it's talking about, it kind of infers LLMs, it infers AI like tailored experiences. That what Intuit are building is much more agent focused compared to Copilot focused.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what's in the product now? If you was to drum up a USA product, so you've already said, right, there's a bit of jealousy here and a bit of, we're looking over with rose tinted glasses over the pond and going, wow, and everything. But that is publicly available. If you want to now, you can get a US uh, product, and off to the races. You can play around with it. And what's baked in there now is kind of that simple start, or kind of like that starting point. So really good examples that are there is the idea that the receipt capture is now purely powered by this Intuit Assist model. And what I like about it is that confidence building, right? So typical receipt capture at the moment uses OCR technology, puts information in there, and it kind of presents it to you in a different UI that you then are trying to make sure that it's extracted things right. Has it got the date right? Has it got this right? But that's how a typical OCR solution works at the moment. The way that they're dealing with this is it goes, right, let's forget about a typical or a new UI. Let's put it directly into the transactions and love, right? Like that's where you get confidence out of it, where it actually just extracts the data in real time. So you're literally seeing a nice little, the UI is pretty nice where it's putting this blue thing around it, and each thing's changing and going through, and even give you context of why it's choosing this if you want to, and you can kind of get that confidence through from there. So the idea that any transaction, and this isn't just an expense or a bill, but this is invoicing and even journals and all that, like, that can be automatically generated by this Intuit Assist. So that was like their first show of it, and again, that's live in the US. But also is their whole way of dealing with the banking side of it as well. So you go into the banking screen and it's going to suggest XYZ to you, but it's going to give you context. This is why it's chosen this one. This is the reason for it. And even a little link so you can go and see where that context was come from. So whatever website it's got that information from, or whatever supplier that it's got it from, you can bring that through there. And then the final bit that they're kind of showing off in their first bit was all about debt management and how it can help you, chase debts and find debts that might be there, and how to word it and all that sort of element that we've kind of seen in other products before. But it's nice to have this in a product without having to go to a third party and rely on integrations and everything else. But then their next step, like you've kind of alluded to there, is, right, well, how do we take all that data, but how do we present that data so that we can make it meaningful? And their idea is a bit of a feed, and I like to see it as like a bit of a task list for your clients. And the idea then it's going to bring in these information for you, like this bank needs reconcile, or this needs to do. It's supposed to train your client so that they can get the most out of QuickBooks. And the exciting bit that I've seen kind of in conception and how it could work later on is us as the accountant then can start interacting with that feed as well and using our AI agents to help populate that for it. So maybe it's, your VAT returns due in X amount of days. Well, let's get that on the feed and let's make sure that the clients are going to provide the data for you or whatever it's going to be, right? That's where I find it really exciting that you can then look at it at scale. You're not just thinking about individual clients at this point. You're thinking about all of your client base and how can this affect all of it? And how can we get that right information? How do we get our clients to interact with your practice in the way that you want to, right? Like set them deadlines within the product, set them tasks within the product to get done for you so that then you can help them actually file the VAT return on time or whatever the compliances needs to be. And I think that's the exciting bit. And that's the bit where, they've got the ability to really do that. Because as you've already said, there's a whole ecosystem here that we can kind of tap into and utilize. So I think that's where I see the AI-ness coming through that, maybe it's a soft touch at the beginning, but it will give us that confidence. Go, yeah, you know what? I understand where they're trying to go with this. And when the more complicated and the more, wow stuff comes out, hopefully we've had enough of that confidence building enough to go, right, okay, let's at least see what you've got here. You've got my attention. It may not be right for me, or I may not 100% trust it from the beginning, but at least I'm interested because you've built that confidence with something as simple as I said, OCR, receipt capture, right? Like if they can just get us and hook, with a fishing rod and get us hooked on just that, I think the rest of it will hopefully follow from there.
AI-ness is definitely something that I think needs to become a buzzword now. I'm going to have to use that. But so essentially, everything you're saying is what is the detail behind what this article was trying to state, right? That we've got this AI that is going to come out at some point, and we are just kind of giving that teaser into it. But whilst we're teasing you, please be aware we've got this existing solution that already has AI built in for the MTD clients. Okay. I mean, sometimes I just wish they'd state this stuff. Probably they're reticent about making promises that they can't quite deliver on, especially if it needs to go through a phase of testing with like closed groups to make sure it's doing it. But big fan of gamification. It's worked so well for so long now with bank feeds. If we can bring that into other areas of the of transactions and OCR now, I think it's a must that it has to be AI powered because you've got providers in the space that's doing that. I think my understanding is Dexter completely pivoted their engine into AI now. You can't if you're not in the AI space in OCR, you are now pretty much redundant. You've got an old system that will just lose clients over time rather than gain them. So yeah, OCR makes sense. Bank makes sense as you've already got that in the sole trader product. If you can do that with other areas such as prompts, with that justification, with the links, because that's the bit with AI, right? It will give you an answer. And the things I love about like the simple Google searches now is it brings up like an AI answer, but then tells you where it's all come from. So you can go and actually uncover, is it right? Or is it giving me an answer that's it's not interpreting quite correctly what's in the underlying articles. So I think that would be great. Tasks, prompts, triggers, gamifying the whole solution to try and help the client makes our life easier. In the same way, if we can do that for our team, we're eradicating some of the other tools that we probably are using as well regarding task management. So, but that feels a little bit further down the road, to get that really accurate and really working well. But what do you think then? Let's assume that there's a tool coming out sometime either this year or early next year ahead of MTD, because that's kind of what is being hinted at in this article.
Yeah.
What do you think will be in there from a base level of AI? Because they've talked about Intuit Assist for quite a long time. In the article, it says about AI experiences that have fluency over tasks, as I guess you talked about, like tracking and managing transactions, solving problems, auto categorizing. Well, you've got some auto categorization already in Sole Trader.
Yep.
So do you think that that's just going to roll out across the rest of the product, like all the other levels of Intuit?
Well, I don't know about that one, and I don't know if that's because there's not an appetite for it, or because like it would be too much to ask for. That's the bit I don't know. The beauty of Sole Trader is that it was built from the ground up. They could incorporate auto categorization, right? When you look at the new banking screen that's already been shown in the US and everything else, yeah, it can take us most of the way there. It can suggest, it can go through as much as we possibly can. I just don't know. I don't know when that auto categor or how that auto categorization fits within the product. What I can see though, in terms of them helping us, is and it was the kind of the want that we've wanted since day one of MTD coming out, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I was always convinced that every product on the market was going to provide a solution to file an MTD return at some point. Yes, there was investment. Yes, there's going to be hurdles. And yes, there's all these complications that we found out now we're in the testing phase, right? But ultimately, the products were always going to file an MTD return. It's just in what capacity. And I feel like at the moment, in some of the people, some of the vendors out there, all they're showing us is that, oh, it can file, it can file, it can file. But actually, what we need to know, and what we need as in an industry to help us deliver MTD, is what about the holistic view? How is this? How are we going to do this at scale, as you've already mentioned, right? Like, what options do we have? Is there going to be a list? Because HMRC doesn't even provide a list of clients, right? Like, we can't even go onto their back end and see a list of our clients to see who's filed for MTD at quarter end or not. And I feel like that's where they've definitely taken that feedback on board. And when they're talking about tools and stuff, that's what they're looking to do, is how can they assist us in a holistic view so that we can look at all of our clients. Because one of the concepts or problems that we're kind of battling internally in our firm at the moment is, yeah, we're really confident on those clients where we're going to do all the work for them. That's just like a VAT return, right? We can put our checks in place, we can put our systems in place, we can get to a point where we can work with a client and make sure we file by whatever the date that needs filing by. That's what we know and love. We've done that since day one. Like that's, as long as there's enough meat on the bone on the fee, we can deliver that service, right? What about those clients who there's not enough meat on the bone for that, and their only solution is that they'll be filing their end, but they're going to still need our support to a point, because if they've not filed by the end of the year, we can't complete the tax return, right? And we're going to, then we're not going to be able to provide the service. So it's all those sort of bits where I think AI is going to play a massive part, because ultimately there's not enough resources available in the UK, accounting industry at the moment
No.
to manually do this, right? So
Yep.
we need a holistic view. We need ways in which we can extract our client database, see who's already filed, prompt who hasn't. Do you know what I mean? It's all those bits that we're going to have to rely on AI going forward for us to deliver an MTD service. And it almost feels like everything's all coming at the same time in the right time, right? But is it going to be an elegant solution? How is that going to work? And I feel like the best thing that's come out of the MTD issue is that solutions are being built for based on this scale problem, based on this capacity issue, based on that. And I feel that's what we've got to keep an eye out. And I know it seems vague, doesn't it, in those press articles and stuff, but that's what I believe is what they're trying to hint at, is that how do we support you as an accounting industry who are, maybe you've got X amount of QuickBooks licenses. Maybe you only got one or two. Even if you only got one or two, you need an elegant solution to look after those, right? As opposed to whatever other solution you're using. So I'm hopeful that that's what the kind of end goal is going to be.
Well, that is good, and it's positive in the fact that if you go back a couple of years, Intuit was all about direct to client, and I think they realised that actually, especially in the UK, they have to work with the accountancy sector, and they kind of changed their relationship approach. And I think that building now tools for the accountants, especially when there's such a big understanding that all of these smaller businesses will need help from accountants going forward, even if it's just to provide some assurance about what they're trying to do themselves. I think that's going to be a big, powerful gain. And as you said, there's lots of other things that are coming out. You talk about awareness of what your clients are doing, what's filed, what's not filed. The whole add some open tax product is an example of that we were talking about earlier. So we are finding little niche solutions, but it also feels like it's coming a little late. Like, we as accountants should already have our tech stack in place, ready for what's coming. We need to change our culture. We need to change the way we work, and we're not really the fastest to adapt a lot of the times. So if we're now waiting for something to come out, later in the year, early next year, is that going to be a bit too late for us to adapt quickly to really make use of those tools? Is it going to make the first engagement to the clients a bit chaotic? I think those are things we're going to have to consider. So I'd love it if the likes of Intuit, Xero, etc., just done this a little earlier. But there's some challenges around that, right? They didn't know exactly what the integrations with the systems were like. They didn't know what support accountants needed until, as we always do, last minute we come in and go, help us.
but also their fingers got burnt with delays and everything else, right? Like
Yeah, of course.
you've always got to take that into consideration, and that's been the biggest frustration I've kind of had with like talking to HMRC about this sort of stuff. They understand and they understand what our needs are going to be, but they don't help the vendors. They don't help them kind of make it through. I mean, how long has it been since MTD VAT's been live, and we've
Ah,
only just got a
forever.
solution? Yeah, well, we've only just got a solution where we can actually get authorization through digitally, right? Like it's always been quite a manual process to get that through and having to generate links and all this sort of stuff, right? That technology has been available pretty much since day one of MTD VAT, but it was so convoluted, it was so complicated, there were so many checks and stuff to go through that the practice management solutions weren't able to deliver on that promise of a nice way to authorize your client. Because especially in the
Yeah,
MTD world, if we have to go through all of that pain of authorizing a client for MTD, and back to that feast issue, there's not enough meat on the bone to do it. For that, hopefully we're able to price it as a value added and we can absorb it, right? I don't think we're going to be able to do that with MTD. And I think that's been the frustration, hasn't it? With the delays, with the pushback, with all that sort of stuff. Like it's we needed to have all of this in place a lot sooner for us to be able to bring it in. And if we'd have stuck to those deadlines and everything else, I'd imagine we'd be in a different place because they were all gunning for it.
yeah.
We've had, unfortunately, we've had, you know, software solutions go under because they were all in on it, right? And they were ready
We
to
have
go
indeed.
and innovate, So, yeah, that I feel like that's where the blame's got to be made.
Yeah, and it comes back down to poor HMRC systems, really, doesn't it? Which is a frustration. I really just wish they had a good team that they could just go, okay, we want to build something new, something pioneering. We build it in its silo, and then we work out to kind of integrate and suck the data out. There's always connectors, and with AI now, you can kind of standardize and align that with the different data sets in different places. So look, hopefully HMRC can work that out. It's getting there from a making touch digital perspective, but it's not going particularly quickly. But look, let's kind of summarize where we are now. So the article was a bit of fluff. There was some things it said in it, which is kind of hinted at what's coming, and you've kind of built out a bit more around that. It's kind of saying that what we've been promised regarding Intuit Assist will be here,
Mm-hmm.
possibly this year, latest kind of early next year, ready for MTD. That's essentially what this article seems to be saying without guaranteeing it. And then at the back end going, by the way, in case you didn't really see it, we've got QuickBooks Sole Trader that is actually kind of AI powered anyway, and maybe something that you should be looking at as well. Do you think that's a good summary of what's kind of gone on with this?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much spot on. Yeah, and it is tricky, isn't it? Like there's definitely a bit of issue here of how do you sell AI? Like AI has been a really tough one to properly get through because if you just release something that is a bit meh, no one's going to adopt it, are they? It'll just come and it'll go, and we'll play around. We'll ask it a few questions. It won't know the answer, and we'll just move on, right? So yeah, I think it's one of the, and I'm as frustrated as anyone of having to wait for, and it's not just Intuit, right? There's other products out there that have promised AI and they've not delivered on it yet. But I think we've just as a community just got to, us early adopters have to be patient, have to be sat there and have to wait for this. But there's going to be, the people who let's be honest, who's going to move the needle. They're the ones that need to be impressed, right? And the only way we're going to impress them is by making sure it comes out the door going. And we've got plenty of other tools to play around with, right? Like I don't know about you, but after ChatGPT gave their little business thing update yesterday, I was straight on it. So I was straight in there. I've connected up HubSpot. 88,000 tickets have already been analyzed. I've got other tools to
I've
play
not
with.
done that
All right, well,
yet.
get it on there. But yeah,
I'm surprised. I thought you'd just be waiting for the switch, Aaron, just sat there waiting for the new tool. But look, I think as a summary, right, there's exciting stuff going on. I think we feel it's a bit late. We want more clarity. What is coming, and what can we say? What can we talk about? But it's exciting times, and the entire accounting industry is going to basically change in how we operate and how we interact with our clients over the next 2 years. But there's a huge lot of panic out there, and lots of firms going, I feel like I have to be doing something with AI. Realistically, we're still waiting. We're still waiting for that big shift in the UK. There are little bits you can do, little things, as I guess you've alluded to. If you're right on the cutting edge, plug into ChatGPT, get some kind of automation going, tidy up your CRM. And there's ways to plug in tools with Zapier and Make now that uses AI. but there's no big shift in my opinion. There's no that big release where the entire accounting industry goes, I need that.
Yeah, but was there for cloud? Because for me, and I don't know if you're the same, but I feel like this is cloud again, right? Like cloud was a big, battlefront, whatever you want to call it, and a big shift. AI seems to be like the next one, and we're kind of going into there. But was there a big, one moment where we all think? I feel like there was still slow adoption, and I feel like it's history repeating itself as well. If we kind of look back to how we adopted cloud and how we moved over, it wasn't a click and everything's done, a Thanos moment, for example. It was a slow burn, wasn't it? And we got there in the end. So is that fair? Or do you think that because
Yeah.
AI is so much more, you know, impactful, that we've got to have that click moment for it to work? I don't know.
No, I don't think you're right. I think it wasn't really cloud that was the big click moment to some extent. It was bank feeds
Good
that
point.
changed the way we
Yeah.
worked, right? Cloud enabled bank feeds, but actually bank feeds changed the way we interact with our clients and enabled live information rather than massively historic ones. But there were issues with bank feeds early on, and there was like lack of reliability on it. And that's the same way with AI, right? That you can do certain things, but we still haven't got the 100% trust there. But I think things are accelerating. Like we were kind of sat on just desktop historic systems for a long time. Then cloud came out, and we've had it like maybe 8-9 years, and we're there going, okay, well we're kind of the ones that are early adopters have kind of maximized what they can do with cloud to some extent. Now AI is coming, and we feel that 8-9 years is probably like 3 years for AI. So that's the speed we're working at now, and I think that's where everyone's panicking a bit. It's like, oh, I feel like I have to do something, but we're starting to see partners do something. We had Zero on last week, and they kind of hands up. Yep, we've released Jax. It's not great at the moment, but we're really excited about what's coming. Intuit announced Intuit Assist 2 years ago. We've not really seen it in the UK, but it sounds like it's coming. It's going to be really impactful. I still think the back end of this year, start of next year, is where we're really going to see some huge releases on AI. Won't have that instant click, everyone adopts it, but I think there'll be some people such as yourself, myself, going, actually, this is now a game changer, and we need to do something about it. But thank you so much, Aaron, for coming on. We've dived in as expected. We've gone over because we can always talk a lot about this stuff. And if anyone has watched this and wants to learn a bit more about what's happening with Intuit, please do reach out to Aaron. He is the expert in this place. And I can talk about AI in general. But thanks for listening, Aaron. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.